Hi everyone. I hope you're having a good week exploring line. And in this particular assignment, what we're doing is we're turning our attention to another type of line drawing, which is gesture drawing. And so it's a little bit different in the sense that what we're doing with gesture, which is I think different from the modified blind contour drawing, is that we're going much more quickly in our drawing style, where instead of going inching along really slowly, we are actually picking up the speed and working a little bit more of, you can have like multiple lines that define the object. It's a lot looser. That's, I think, the key word you could say of this style is that it's very loose. Your arm is loose. But the things that it shares in common with the drawing style that we did before is that you still want to spend most of your time looking at the actual object rather than looking at your paper, because we always want to be really observing what we're drawing. So it's the same attitude in looking versus looking at your object versus looking at your paper. Uh, and um, and in so doing, what we're really trying to get um, at is that it's more important to really observe the object rather than, in this style of drawing, the result of the drawing is not so important. You're starting to kind of really, in a way, start sensing the object a little bit more on your page and make a direct connection with what you see. But the actual perfect accuracy of your end final result drawing, it doesn't matter so much. It's more like, in a way, capturing the essence of what you're looking at. And also just sort of sensing the kind of the beauty, the natural beauty of the line when you stop kind of trying to control the line, how that really creates a sense of beauty in the drawing, just like in the previous drawing that we did. Okay, so we're going to get started, and we'll take a look at everyone's drawings and provide some suggestions on how you might be able to get more out of this particular drawing style. And all of that feedback, of course, will contribute to the final submission, which is due on Sunday at the end of the week. Okay, Aaron, yeah, this is what you wrote here is really exactly what you really want to do is just sort of let the process take over, have a loose grip, and move your entire arm. I think that when we start drawing, even people who've been drawing for a long time, you'll see some people are still really, and again, this really depends upon the drawing style, but you can see that they're still kind of perceiving the drawing tool as like a writing tool rather than the process of drawing. So they're a little bit tighter. Like when we write, we tend to write with small motions. And in drawing, it's good to be able to explore expanding your arm. And the reason why I think that is a little bit, we have resistance to it is because then we lose a little of the control, our perceived control over it. But you just need to kind of, in a way, practice that and see how that, in a way, enlivens your drawing and allows you to actually become a better drawer. So yeah, I think that what you said there is actually reflected in your drawings, is that you really did do that. Yeah, they look good. They really, I think, express the qualities. You can see the underlying qualities of the object, the form. It looks like, with the difference in gesture drawing is we're very comfortable here letting ourselves go over lines. Like, find what I always like to say is you're trying to find that edge, and if it takes a few different strokes to like feel that you've captured that edge, then you do that. So yeah, this looks really good. I think you've got a really nice approach to it. One thing I will just say, just one thing to just watch, and this is something I think happens when we draw, is we sometimes will go and kind of create, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what happened, but we sort of kind of can create these lines that don't necessarily fulfill a function in the drawing, but they fill in space. Like maybe some in here and here. This is where I sort of see it a little bit. Um, so it's good. It's good to always be looking at whatever you're drawing and to pick up what you see happening there. And to avoid any kind of filler lines in your drawing. If there's nothing really to draw, then sometimes you might add a little bit of something to kind of activate that space, but sometimes you might just leave that empty. Does that make sense? So, even the object itself and what's around it, to kind of just sort of maybe somehow capture whatever it is you see there, just like you do on the object itself. Okay, but otherwise, I think you did a really nice job here. And, if you want to do a few more of these just to have fun with them, but I do think these would work quite well for the final submission. And one final thing, Erin, if it's possible, if you can combine these into one JPEG, all three of them, there's a video tutorial on how to do that. That'd be great. It's not really actually a really key thing in this assignment to have them combined. But if you can, I think it's a nice technique to learn. So, yeah. Akila, so yeah, I love the idea of, bringing in things from your environment for this drawing. What you want to do here, though, is you want to like pick something up, like an object. If you want to pick up like some blades of grass, or like a piece, like a branch outside, some object, or it can be an object. Yeah, it's nice if it's a natural object, and it looks like you've got a lot of those. So it looks like what you've done here is drawn an actual scene. So what I'd recommend you do is go over the instructions again, and also the videos, and follow those instructions for setting up your drawing. Again, like taking an object, bringing it inside, setting it up, on a table or in a vase or something like that, and then, follow the steps for gesture drawing of that object. And, keep listening in on the group critique. We're going to be talking, we're going to be looking at the everyone's drawings in relation to the assignment, so you might pick up a few more tips. And then you want to do 3 drawings, 3 gesture drawings. All right. Here. Okay, yeah, Photoshop can be a little problematic, but excuse me. I like how you got this together into one JPEG. But if you're having problems with that, because it would be nice if these were all seen without overlapping. If you're having problems with that, just submit them as separate JPEGs. I think that's probably better. You won't lose that many points by not submitting it as a single file. So yeah, it's probably better to do that. Okay, yeah, I think you're actually starting to get a good handle on gesture. This one in particular, I'm starting to really sense the gestural qualities of the kind of larger movements of your arm. And I would just say keep going with that. You want to really expand, get a more of a flow, like really, use your whole arm in the gesture drawing. And it's okay if, your drawing kind of gets a little like loose, and it doesn't kind of constrain to the object itself. It just kind of flows out, because when you work with your arm, you're really kind of like going over and really trying to express the lines of the drawing, what you see, the cross contours, and let it flow a lot more than the previous drawing that we did, which was a lot more kind of, you could say, in a certain way kind of controlled, because it was slowed down. So I would just expand and really sort of let the energy and the movement of your arm just follow the lines of the object, and again, don't worry too much about staying within a certain parameter of the object. It can really loosen up and let it flow. Okay? So I'd keep experimenting with this a little bit more. Hi, Courtney. Yeah, not to get too caught up in the details. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? In gesture drawing, we're really trying to look at the whole object, like the whole form. Sometimes in drawing, when we get caught up in the details, we miss that form, like the larger form. And gesture drawing can really teach us how to observe that. Like when we're talking about form, what is that overall form, like that shape? Like capturing that, the lines, the underlying structure of an object, and I think you've actually done a really nice job with that. I like this one a lot with all of the different levels, just and with the gesture drawing, you can pick up details as you go. You might start with the larger sort of structure, and then you can sort of really quickly sketch that in, trying to keep things fast and not slow down too much. And yeah, I think these overall look good. This one, yeah, maybe could be a little looser. It feels maybe a little bit tighter in this one, but I think overall you've really got a good handle on this. And yeah, again, this one is really, really nice. I like the way you have darker lines and lighter lines. That's something we can do in gesture, where there's a darker line, we can kind of press a little harder or go over it, make it a little bit stronger. And when there's lighter lines, we can be a little bit lighter and more delicate. There's a real kind of nice sense of, relaxing into the lines. So yeah, so again, you could experiment with a couple more if you want to, and just sort of then compare which one you think like the most. But I think you've done a nice job with this. Tyrone, well, I'm glad you had a chance to post your drawings just as I was about to do the group critique. That's great. I was able to include them in. Um, yeah, and in looking at your drawings, you've got 4 different gesture drawings here. They all look really good. I think they really are starting to capture the quality. I love the kind of quality of this particular form. I think you've done a really nice job at capturing it. And this one as well. You know, the wonderful thing about gesture drawings is it's okay to be, you know, loose and messy. In observational drawing, for the most part, we can really explore just the qualities of the drawing itself. This one's really beautiful too. I think you did a really nice job here. It looks very loose, very much captures that gesture. So overall, I think these look great. And the only thing I would say is, you know, to work on is just the presentation of the drawings itself. It's something that we talked about in the previous group critique. You can take a look at the video tutorials that are in the previous assignment instructions just for photographing it. Like, you want to make sure that when you photograph your drawing that you're photographing it straight on. Like, it looks like there's maybe a bit of an angle here. And then you can crop out any of the background that you don't want to have. I think that's the main point. I think maybe you could adjust the quality of the drawing a little bit, like maybe do an auto contrast in Photoshop like we did in the previous group critique. You might want to review that if you haven't done so already, just to adjust the color a little bit. So that's what I'd focus on. Once you get that particular technique down, however you perfect it with your camera and all those, you know, the lighting you have, then you can just use that particular model for the rest of the class. And yeah, okay, let me know if you have any questions, but otherwise, nice job on your drawings. Taylor, okay, yeah, and nice presentation here, putting them all together. I think the photographs look really good. And yeah, I also think you have really captured the essence of gesture drawing, you know, these quick, kind of spontaneous drawings. And I think they look good. Now, if you wanted to maybe keep working on this style of drawing, what I would just suggest is loosen your arm, you know, even maybe a little bit more. You know, sometimes we sometimes can have our maybe hand a little bit, we use our hand a little bit too much perhaps, or we have our arm a little bit, you know, stiffly hold. I think that's the nature of when we start doing these drawings. But I would just kind of keep exploring a little bit longer lines, a little smoother, just kind of keep sort of building that sense of movement and energy in the drawing. I think that's all you could really do with these, and you know, you might be interested to see how your drawing style changes if you do that. But I think you do have a really strong sense of the style here, and it's just a matter of exploring it maybe just a little bit more. Okay, let's see. Okay, Janelle. Okay, yeah, so let's open up your Word document. You don't have to put your files in a Word document. I know that it kind of makes it a little bit easier. You could say to submit the file, but rather if you can use the tutorial for how to just submit a single JPEG and combine your files, and if you have trouble with that, just submit the drawings themselves, the JPEGs, separately, and that's fine too. Okay, let's just zoom in here. Okay, yeah, you know, so hopefully in the group critiques thus far, you've started to get a sense, maybe a little bit better sense about gesture drawing as we've discussed it. I know that when we have instructions here in an online classroom, it's not as easy to understand, I think, as if we're in a traditional classroom and we could really, you know, talk through this and do some demonstrations. But I do think you actually have captured the essence of gesture drawings, where you really go quickly, you try to explore the edges of things. I think you've got it. Yeah, and I think with gesture drawings, you know, the more you do of them, even in one session, like sitting down for half an hour and just going through, like setting a timer and just drawing and drawing, the better your gesture drawings get, because I think it's like practicing scales, where you really are trying to just see how far you can take the process. So you might want to do a little bit more of that. I think everybody always can do a little bit more. But I do think you've got a really, I think, a solid understanding, a solid foundation of it. So yeah, nice job. So the other thing I would say is, like Tyrone, I would just recommend that you spend a little bit more time photographing your drawings to make sure that you're photographing them straight on, that you're cropping the edges in Photoshop, and that you're correcting the color. Again, we went over a little bit of that in the previous group critique, and you can also take a look at the video tutorial in the Task 1 instructions for some more information on how to do that.